Hello everyone, Monica here with another deck review. Today I am looking at the wonderful Melissa Lenormand. This is a deck that is now out of print and has been so for quite some time. And I can't seem to find a lot of information on it online anymore. So I wanted to showcase it and do, I guess, a bit of a review on it and also a full flip through in the second part of this video. This is actually the very first deck that I bought back around 2010 or thereabouts, and I no longer keep the cards in this box because the box, I felt it was a bit flimsy, and instead I keep them in a wooden box like so, and they fit perfectly inside, like really nice and snug, and that's the card backs there. Now, before I talk about the cards, just so you know, the creator of the deck is Melissa Jo Hill. She, at the time when I purchased this deck, was very popular in the divination circles, particularly on Lenormand, of course, because she had a website called the Sassy Sibyl, and she was running courses, publishing decks on it, and had like really good information to share on learning Lenormand. And I think that she's changed her life trajectory or interests pertaining to her vocation or what she wants to do, which is fine. I mean, everyone at times in their life might take different paths, but basically what I'm trying to say is that you won't find the creator, publishing any more decks, as far as I can tell from her online presence. Okay. So this deck is a collage deck, and because it is a collage deck, I wouldn't recommend it for beginners, simply because the card images contain quite a few different images put together in collage style, and so it can be quite a busy deck for beginners. But in saying that, it has a wonderful vintage vibe. And so, I don't know if you can see, the card backs are just so wonderful. And if I flip it over, let me just move this out of the way. I'll give you an idea of the cards themselves. Now, I will do, as I said, a flip through all the 36 cards and the extra cards that come with this deck. The deck does have an extra man, woman, child, and snake card. But as you can see, the cards themselves are images that Melissa took from, I think she must have looked online, or I'm not exactly sure where she sourced a lot of these, but they do have a very vintagey feel to them. And I have to give credit to her for keeping with the same color theme and the vintage theme, and really giving this deck a really nice cohesive vibe. Like it feels like it's, it's all the same deck. With the card colors that she's chosen, with the fact that, for example, in each card just about has this beautiful cursive writing. You probably can't pick it up very well here, but there are other cards where it really stands out, and it's really, really beautiful. And yes, she's chosen the images really, really well. And the fact that there are, like in this heart card here. Now, in a traditional Lenormand deck, the heart card just shows a heart in the middle, and that's it. Like, they're very simple, the traditional Lenormands. With this deck, you have these different layers in each card. So here we have, the scalpel with the tree and the heart-shaped leaves, and then we've got also the playing cards themselves. And the same with the tree. You've got a tree in the background, but you also have this, like a zoom-in image of what looks to be like a farmer and his horses in a field with a tree. So because there's these like different elements within each card, this is why I wouldn't recommend it for beginners. I think that it's best if you're a beginner to stick with the traditional Lenormand where you just have that one image, so you don't get off track or sidetracked or confused perhaps even by some of these images in the deck. That aside, it's a really beautiful deck. If you're into anything vintage, if you're into a bit more of a romantic feel as well, I feel this deck certainly carries that. And I have done readings with it, but I've only read with it for personal readings, not for anyone else, because it's the first deck that I have bought, the first Lenormand deck that I bought, and I have, I guess, a special attachment or connection with it, and it's sort of, you know, for me only. Now this card, I stopped here because this is the path card in Lenormand, and in more traditional decks, it's shown simply as, you know, a path that forks, and then it becomes two paths often, or it's like a crossroads, which is its other name. You know, you're at a crossroads, and it implies having to make a decision. You know, you're having to make a choice. You've got to make a choice. You've got to take one path versus the other, and there's always going to be that one path that you don't go down on, and the one that you do, and they each carry their own consequences. And Melissa's done a brilliant job by putting this image here, and I really, really love it. I think I can relate to it, certainly. I'll read you what this is all about. You might not be able to see it so well because it's so tiny, even I'm struggling to read it. Hang on, let me have some tea first. So, at the very top it says adolescence in the male, and then we've got the two paths there. Now on the left hand side is the more wholesome path, and on the right hand side is a path that's not so good. So it says on the left hand side, at 15, study and cleanliness. And on the other side, at 15, cigarettes and self-abuse. Then we move to the next life stage. At 25, on the left, we have purity and economy. And on the right, at 25, impurity and dissipation. Then at 36, we have, what does it say? Honorable success. And on the other side, at 36, vice and degeneracy. And finally, on the left side at 60, venerable old age. And on the right side at 48, moral physical wreck. So interesting, first of all, that it's the same ages throughout, except the man leading a wholesome life makes it to 60 and probably beyond, whereas the one who doesn't, you know, by the time he's 48, we've got a moral physical wreck. And I think that this is a brilliant illustration of the impact of our choices on our future selves. Your present self can so often essentially shaft your future self by making wrong choices. And especially in your youth, in our youth, we're not able to fully appreciate that. Although I've got to say, I've met a lot of wiser younger people, and I was quite prudent in many ways when I was younger, but in other ways I wasn't. And so don't think that I'm preaching here, because I certainly have made some big choices in my youth, but I learned from them. And even more importantly, I was able to look at people making abysmal choices, particularly regarding substance abuse, partner relationships and things like that. And, you know, you don't have to make all the wrong choices yourself. You can look at other people and what they're doing and learn from what, what they're going through. But anyway, I think that for me, this is one of the best cards in this deck when you're looking at the idea of choices and decisions, and how important it is to strive to make the right choice. And this card also reminds me of when I did my yoga course. My teachers, they're Indian, and of course they do subscribe to their philosophy of reincarnation and karma, and they have talked about this, particularly when it came to old age, and they consider that it's really good to lead a good life so that you can reach old age. So, looking after your body, looking after your mind, so that you're able to reach old age, because in their view, the longer that you're here on this earth, the more that you can deal to your karma and work through your karma and, meet the consequences of your past lives. And so by working through that, it means that in your next reincarnation, you clear that ledger, that karmic ledger of karmic debt is cleared, or there's quite a bit of it that is cleared up, so that when you do reincarnate, you won't have such a difficult time on this earthly realm. And anyway, this card just reminded me of that, and it's a really interesting point of view that they hold, and I certainly agree with it. Even if you don't believe in reincarnation, living a wholesome life is important as a human being, and living the right way. Anyway, so as you can tell, there's some beautiful color choice that is consistent throughout the deck, and I also love this cursive writing, which is probably a bit more obvious in this card and a few of the other cards, that old style handwriting, which I was fortunate enough to grow up learning that as a kid, and that's no longer the case, unfortunately. But yeah, I have read with this deck, and it does give good readings, of course. I think that if you come to the table with good intentions, and in a right frame of mind, you can work with any deck, of course. But some decks are trickier than others, but I haven't found this to be the case with the Melissa Lenormand. But I do think that the cards are quite busy, and because of that, it means that I don't think I've ever done a grand tableau with this deck. You know how you can often do the full 36 card grand tableau. I think that there's just so much going on in the cards at times that a grand tableau would just be too much. It would be a bit overwhelming for me. So I've just never gone there. Instead, I do like a 3 card or a 5 card reading, maybe 7 cards, but otherwise I don't do a full grand tableau with this. And the snake card is actually a great example of having different images that can present a challenge, because you've got the idea of treachery and deception, which is associated with the snake, of rival, the other woman and things like that. And you've got this snake here and, the lizard that needs to be careful, otherwise it will end up a meal. But then you also have this woman holding this snake in such a powerful stance and gesture. And to me, this evokes the strength card, particularly the strength card in a deck like the Heindel deck. I don't know, for those of you that have the Heindel Tarot deck, the strength card there shows a woman holding a snake. And it's about, to me, this image is about empowerment, and it's also about Kundalini power and transformation. So, you can see now why, if you're looking at this card, depending on what card surround it, it might get a bit confusing or challenging for a beginner reader. And even for me, I've been learning Lenormand for quite some time, and I need to really sit with this deck and take my time with it. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking here, otherwise we'll be here all night. And I will do the full 36 card flip through, as well as show the additional cards that come with the deck. Before I do that, just wanted to mention the guidebook. It has a little guidebook that it came with. It's not huge or comprehensive, of course it can't be given its size, but it tells you quite a bit on the images chosen for each card, and I so love that. I really love it when artists take the time to talk about the image that they've used, where it came from, you know, and a little bit of like why they chose that or their creative process. I really appreciate and value that. So it certainly helps to have the guidebook. The cards aren't numbered. That's the other thing. They're not numbered. So if you don't know your Lenormand, once again, if you're a beginner, it will get tricky because you're gonna look at a card and go, oh, what number is that card? And you won't know, and you've got to go through the whole deck and figure it out. And I remember doing that when I did get this deck, because yeah, it was my first deck, and I certainly wasn't experienced in Lenormand. I was like, this deck was my introduction to Lenormand, and it's set in my cabinet for years and years and years. Like I think almost a decade before I picked it up again and started getting into Lenormand, around when you know, the big pandemic hit. I started learning Lenormand, and so yeah, I do recommend this deck if you ever come across it. You never know, sometimes these old out of print decks will pop up at garage sales and in the most unusual places, second-hand shops and things like that. You might be lucky enough to come across it. Otherwise, I don't know, write to the creator if you like what you see. You can still contact Melissa Jo Hill. She does have a website, but it's more about her current interests in archery and writing and things like that. So with that being said, let's have a look at the flip through.
you.